Amy is a fifth grade teacher. Now she's at a therapist, crying and explaining how hard she has suffered the past weeks in her class. There are 20 students in Amy's classroom. She has a science project for them.
Now I will put you into 5 groups. Your task is to choose an animal and explain its life cycle and present your findings. Let's talk about frogs. What frogs? I like horses. I don't want to be in this group. Ope, Ope, they are fighting.
Amy doesn't know how to help them to work collaboratively, and the classroom gets noisier and is in a mess. Some of the students are not listening to each other, some are doing other unrelated tasks, and some of the students are absent-minded. The outcome is terrible, and at the end of the day, the class is a mess.
Don't worry, Amy. You're not alone. Lots of teachers have similar problems, and I have a wonderful prescription for you. That is scripting.
The term script used in educational contexts describes ways of structuring interaction and scaffolding collaborative learning. It specifies sequences and distributes learning activities and roles among learners in a group. Scripts support collaborative learners to focus on and regulate specific roles and actions which are expected to promote learning, especially for those learners who have little knowledge of how to do collaborative work effectively. It also guides learners how to act. Besides, some scripts also prompt metacognitive processes needed to monitor and regulate those activities. There are various types of scripts depending on how the scripts are interpreted from different aspects. I will mainly introduce 4 types of scripts here. Macro and micro script. Macro scripting refers to managing classroom activities by organizing extended learning phases into sequences without providing further guidance on how to act during these phases, like individual analysis followed by class discussion and small group reflection. The 7 steps in problem-based learning is also an example of macro scripting. Microscripting refers to supporting very specific collaborative learning activities at the level of collaborative roles, turn-taking, and individual discourse contributions. For example, in PBL case, a chairperson can use more specific and detailed questions like, does anybody want to add anything else? Does anyone have other questions? To organize discussions. Secondly, internal and external script. External script refers to the pedagogical scenario the students are asked to play. It is designed explicitly by educators to enhance learners' collaborative work. While internal script represents learners' internalized knowledge structures acquired from experiences, which are mental structures. It also refers to prior socially, culturally derived rules for cooperating and collaborating. It is said that every learner has some forms of internal script, such as turn-taking or sharing roles. Thirdly, degree of cohesion. Cohesion is the degree of freedom that learners have in following a script. It also refers to which extent the actions of the learners are constrained by the script. Last, epistemic and social scripts. Epistemic scripts concern knowledge construction activities, describing how learners work on the task in more detail and in a more systematic way within a specific domain, such as defining categories and words, identification of various problems, etc. A checklist is an example of an epistemic script. Checklists typically induce the task strategy to consider several domain and task-specific aspects in a specific sequence. Social scripts specify and sequence interaction of learners, such as eliciting information from each other by asking critical questions to foster learning. Therefore, social scripts aim to help learners structure discourse according to successful interaction patterns of knowledge construction. An everyday example of such a procedure is the scientific peer review process. Social script provides learners with roles and suggests specific forms of interaction that learners rarely engage in spontaneously. Next, I will introduce 4 examples of face-to-face collaborative scripting. First of all, scripted cooperation. In scripted cooperation, learners act as recorder and listeners, work in pairs to summarize, elaborate, give feedback, and sometimes exchange roles for the next portion of content. For instance, first, both partners read material or listen to a lecture and take notes. Then the one acting as a recorder summarizes the main idea of the material orally, while the partner listens and checks for errors and omissions. When the recorder has finished summarizing, the listener provides feedback on errors, distortions, and material omitted. Second, reciprocal teaching. In reciprocal teaching, learners are provided with a structure of interaction for comprehending test material in small groups. Group members take turns assuming roles as questioner, summarizer, clarifier, and predictor. There's a sequence of activity which is predicting, reading, questioning, summarizing, and clarifying the content, and also make new predictions about the next segment of the test. Reciprocal teaching, therefore, does not only suggest specific collaborative activities such as questioning and supporting each other, but also provides a meaningful sequence of these activities in a social context. Third, guided strategic problem solving. It is a sequence of strategic questions following typical stages of problem solving: problem identification and representation, search for a solution path, implementation of a solution, evaluation, and monitor the progress. And here, learners do not have specific roles. Questions like, what do we know about the problem so far? Do we need a different strategy? Fourth, ask to think, tell why. In this example, one group member acts as a teacher, who is also a questioner, the other as learners, which also refers to explainers, and roles change. So questioners ask explainers questions such as, what does it mean? Tell me more about that. There are several types of questions such as analysis and inferencing. What are the implications of something for other things? Second, speculation. What disadvantage might there be to using blah blah blah? Third, analysis, comparison, and application of criteria. What is the difference between A and B in terms of blah blah blah? D, evaluation and evidence-based reasoning. What might be a counter-argument for? So, these are 4 examples of face-to-face collaborative learning.
To summarize, we have learned about what scripting is, the different types of scripts, macro, micro script, internal versus external script, degree of cohesion, epistemic script, and social script. We also give examples of the different types of scripts, scripted cooperation, reciprocal teaching, guided strategic problem solving, ask to think, tell why. And now, we have a question for you. What kind of scripts do you think is suitable to solve Amy's problem?